The H-3 airstrike was a surprise air attack by the Islamic Republic of Iran Air Force IRIAF during the Iran-Iraq War on 4 April 1981 against the airbases of the Iraqi Air Force at the H-3 complex in western Iraq. It was the boldest and one of the most sophisticated operations carried out by the IRIAF during the war. The Iranians claimed that they destroyed 48 aircraft on the ground with no losses of their own. Operation. The target, the H-3 complex, consists of 3 airbases: H-3 Main, H-3 Northwest, and H-3 Southwest. It is located near Al-Wali town close to the Baghdad-Amman highway in the Al-Anbar Desert west of Iraq, near the Jordanian border and 1,000 kilometers from the Iranian borders. It was erected to secure the western borders of Iraq and was also used in the Yom Kippur War in 1973. According to Iraqi sources, during the Iran-Iraq War, it was used as a support airbase for the Iraqi Air Force and housed no more than a few transportation squadrons and a squadron of Miko Yangurovich MiG-21s, as well as retired Hawker hunters. The IRIAF had received credible reports that Iraq, reinforced by the arrival of large amounts of ammunition and spare parts from Egypt, as well as by the delivery of Mirage F-1s from France and Tupolev Tu-22 bombers from the Soviets, had been preparing for an imminent major ground and air offensive against Iran. According to Iranian intelligence, the Iraqi Air Force had relocated most of its valuable assets to its Al-Walid Air Base, located in the H-3 complex, as part of Saddam Hussein's attempts to carry out a successful offensive against Iran on the northern front between 12 and the 22nd of March 1981. Iraq fired 2 9K-52 Lunar M surface-to-surface rockets against the cities of Desfal and Ahvaz. Within days after this attack, commanders of the 31st and 32nd Tactical Fighter Wing in Cherokee Air Base planned a counter-attack to degrade the Iraqi Air Force's capabilities. The attack, being almost 1,500 kilometers from the Iranian fighters at Cherokee Air Base, H-3 was out of range, and if choosing a direct route, the Iranian aircraft would have to fly over Baghdad and perform aerial refueling 2 times in Iraqi airspace, including once near Baghdad, which was heavily fortified by Iraqi air defense sites. A team of IRIAF commanders planned a more sophisticated, surprise operation instead. Senior Iranian military officials had determined that Iraqi Air Force activity was lower in northern Iraq, so a plan was made to approach the Iraqi sites from that direction. To increase the chances, the Iranian commanders decided to fly their aircraft to Urmia Lake first and refuel in the air, and then from there they would have a clean route passing over the mountains of northern Iraqi-Turkish border, while keeping the altitude at less than 300 feet to avoid Iraqi and Turkish radars. The route was around 3,500 kilometers. Nevertheless, the Phantoms could not reach the target without aerial refueling a number of times. The 31st and 32nd Tactical Fighter Wings employed McDonnell Douglas F-4E Phantoms, 4 Grumman F-148 Tomcats, 1 Lockheed C-130H Kofash, a Boeing 747 Airborne Command Post, and 2 tankers for aerial refueling for the attack. The operation began at 10:30 a.m. of 4 April 1981. A formation of 8 F-4 Phantoms, accompanied by 2 airborne reserves, departed from Hamadan Air Base and proceeded towards Urmia Lake, and then, after refueling in friendly airspace, crossed into Iraq, while the 2 reserve aircraft returned. A pair of F-14 Tomcats patrolled the area hours before and after the strike began to counter any interception attempts by the Iraqi Air Force. Meanwhile, 3 Northrop F-5s from Tabriz Air Base performed diversionary attacks on Huria Air Base near Kirkuk, with unknown results, but certainly distracting Iraqis away from the Phantoms. The C-130H was flying near the Iran-Iraq border. Sometime earlier, the 2 tankers, which already had been sent to Turkey, had taken off from Istanbul International Airport, and then clandestinely diverted from international commercial corridors in total radio silence, while apparently being bound for Iran, flying at a very low altitude over southern Turkey and eastern Syria. They crossed mountainous northwestern Iraq and finally joined the Phantoms over the western Iraqi desert. Each Phantom refueled 4 times from the tankers, at the altitude of 300 feet, which was risky and far below any safety standards. This was done to avoid detection by Iraqi radars. However, the fighters briefly appeared several times on the radars, but were mistaken for Turkish aircraft patrolling the border. Colonel Azad Seta supervised the operation from a command Boeing 747 that was in Syria's airspace. The Syrian airport at Palmyra could also be used for possible emergency landing. While approaching the air bases, the Phantom split the formation into 2 groups, Alvand and Alborz. This allowed attacks to come from several directions on the H-3 complex. They bombed all 3 airfields within the H-3 complex. Achieving complete surprise, the fighters made several passes against all 3 air bases. Both runways at Al-Walid were targeted in order to prevent any Iraqi aircraft from taking off. Cluster bombs of the second group of Phantoms damaged 3 large hangars. The Phantoms were able to make multiple attacks on multiple targets with cannon fire. By the end of the second group's attack, the Iraqi military forces had not responded with a coordinated counterattack. Effective anti-aircraft fire was also impaired due to the surprise attack. Iraqi aircraft were scrambled in an unsuccessful attempt to intercept the Iranian force. After the attack, the Iranian formation turned back towards its own bases. Iranian military officials stated that all Iranian Phantoms were undamaged during the attack. Casualties. The IRIAF claimed it destroyed a total of 3 Antonov and 12 BP transports, a Tupolev Tu-16 bomber, 4 Miko Yangurovich MiG-21s, 5 Sukhoi Su-20, 22s, 8 Miko Yangurovich MiG-23s, 2 Dasu Mirage F-1EQs and 4 helicopters, as well as damaging 11 others beyond repair, including 2 Tu-16 bombers. 2 Iraqi pilots and 14 personnel were killed, together with 3 Egyptian and an East German officer, while 19 Iraqis, 4 Egyptians, and 2 Jordanians were badly injured. This strike degraded Iraq's capability to retaliate. According to Iranian intelligence, prior to the attack there were at least 2 squadrons equipped with 10 Tupolev Tu-22B and at least 6 Tupolev Tu-16 heavy bombers, as well as 2 other units with MiG-23BNs and Su-20s, which were hidden in the hangars. This has been disputed by Iraqi officials. Iraqi sources claimed that only a single MiG-21 was damaged by the attack, that the damaged hangars were empty at the time of the attack, and that its 2 22s and 2 16s were stationed at Tammuz Air Base due to the ongoing war with Iran. Iraq claimed that the bombers were stationed at Tammuz until they were retired from the Iraqi Air Force in the late 1990s. 1980s, and then were bombed in 1991 during the Gulf War. Iraq denied any losses of any Mirage F-1s, claiming that all were located in an airbase built specially for them at the request of the French government. The Mirage Air Base, called Saddam Air Base, was located approximately 300 kilometers north of Baghdad. Iraqi Air Defense Command later claimed to have detected the formation coming from the direction of Syria en route to the target, and the radar followed Phantoms for some 67 minutes, although the Iranians achieved total surprise. In media, the attack on H-3, directed by Shafir Bahrani in 1994, is an Iranian movie depicting the operation. The airstrike on Al-Walid is a memoir of Ahmad Mania, one of the IRIAF pilots involved in the operation.